What is good, Ghost Mafians? Welcome back to the Real Talk Podcast with your host, Mr. Ghost, bringing the truth and the facts to the table, shining that light upon the darkness, guys, because we are ultimately the light bearers of this earth. Understand, we have now been 10 days out since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I will admit, in these 10 days, I've watched some vile, disgusting human beings celebrate the death of Charlie. Not only did they celebrate the death of Charlie, but a lot of our politicians have not fully condemned the assassination. They might go on, some talking points to make them look good for their constituents, but they really don't. They just don't stop the lies. And AOC is one of them. She's not far from me, where she represents. And I don't understand how people can vote these people into office. I mean, she was a bartender. I think she went to law school. I think she did, because in order to get in Congress, then you got to have a law degree. I don't know much about that. But anyways, that's not the point. No, you don't, because Trump is president and there's a lot of Congress members that are not lawyers. But anyways, I think you got to have some kind of constitutional law degree to be in Congress, because some people don't understand that their words matter. You know what I'm saying? And the one thing I've learned over these 10 days is that, the book of Romans in chapter 12:21, it teaches us, do not be overcome of evil, but to overcome evil with good. And that is an essential to understand how we're going to overcome all of this. Now, you look at the differences between both sides of the aisle, right? Here we are on the right side of the aisle when Melissa Horton was killed by somebody she knew. She wasn't assassinated. This wasn't a political assassination. It was somebody personal. So regardless, wrong is wrong, evil is evil. But you've seen every Republican in Congress called it out as it is, and they condemned it. And here we are months later with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We heard AOC pretty much said, yeah, it's wrong, it's vile, but then she spews the lies and the rhetoric that pretty much got him killed. Like, it's not one-sided no more. You're seeing a lot of the political violence going towards the right at every corner you turn. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of things with Charlie I agreed on when it came to the Civil Rights Act. You know what I'm saying? That it was too broad. It was way too far over an overreach. Because now it's being used by certain marginalized groups in our country, particularly the transgender people, particularly those who wants to avert our elections. Is being used by them in order to get what they want. And that's not what it was really intended for. So obviously, we're going to be looking into what happened on Congress's floor within the House and within the Senate. And pretty much October 14th is now going to be the National Remembrance Day for Charlie Kirk, right on his birthday. Very fitting. I think it's rightfully so, because he was a voice of peace. He was a voice of understanding, having open dialogue, open conversation. And one of his biggest things that he wanted out of young men was to get married, have children, and be successful. I don't know how evil that is. I mean, obviously those on the left thinks it's very evil of him to tell men to have babies. Last time I checked for my sex ed class, that's how babies are made. I never heard of sword fights making babies. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Just being real with that, And another scripture that I could bring up that would kind of reflect what we're living in right now is in the book of Mark, chapter 7, verse 21 through verse 22. I'm going to read this real quick, and you're going to understand what type of world we're living in. For from within, out of the heart of men proceed evil thoughts, adulterers, fornications, murderers, thefts, covenants, wickedness, deceit. Can't even say this one. Lasciviousness, That's a King James version of the Bible is kind of crazy. Then you're looking obviously with an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. We are seeing wickedness in our society. We are seeing evil within our society. And obviously, when you look at the transgender movement, real quick, little side rant, it is something evil happening. I'm a firm believer that if you're going against God's law and order, you're going to get wickedness. You're going to get self-destruction. You know, as I said, we're going to have a podcast coming up at some point where we're really going to address the elephant in the room. Trans violence, you know, violence from the transgender community and violence towards the transgender community, because it's both sides are wrong. You know what I'm saying? It is wrong for somebody to discriminate or to hate on somebody based upon their mental illness. And yeah, you heard that correctly. It is a mental illness. These are not words of hurt. These are words of truth, because I'm not going to sit there and affirm your ideas, because at the end of the day, it is wrong for me to do so, because I do love you as my brother and sister in Christ, but that's not what this podcast is about. I am super excited that on October 14th, we get to celebrate Charlie's life. You know, in his short life, 31 years, he has done more. I'll say within the last 12 years, he's done so much for this country. He's opened the eyes of a lot of people. And as I said with this podcast, my goal is just to shed the light upon the darkness, you know what I'm saying, and bring truth to the table. So we're going to listen to AOC and her rhetoric. We're going to give her the floor. We're going to listen to the entirety of the thing. This is a pretty long podcast. Stay tuned to the end. And we're going to look at a few clips from Charlie to see whether if she's speaking truth or not. And I'll give you my take at the end of this. So here we have, you know, our boy Charlie being remembered. Kind of awesome. But let's go look at AOC. Let's see what she has to say for everybody. Let's make sure that we have the correct audio for you guys, because it would be an injustice if I played this without the audio going through the proper channels.
Who, after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out.
There we go.
Today, the Republican House majority brought to the floor a resolution honoring, quote, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's assassination was a horrific and vile attack and incident of political violence. And condemning the depravity of Kirk's brutal murder is a straightforward matter, one that is especially important to help stabilize an increasingly unsafe and volatile political environment where everyday people feel more at risk. We can deeply disagree and come together as a country to denounce the horror of this killing. And it is not a license for the abuse of power and whitewashing of American history. Today's resolution only underscores the majority's recklessness by choosing to author this condemnation and honoring on a purely partisan basis, instead of uniting Congress in this tragedy with one of the many bipartisan options to condemn political violence and Kirk's murder, as we did with the late Melissa Hortman. Instead, the majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry today. We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. Who, after
I'm going to pause it there for a second. We're only about a minute and 56 seconds into this, and I'm ready to throw up. And no, I when this was playing, I did look it up. She does not have a law degree, by the way. This is why I'm a firm believer, and I'm being very real with you. I think there has to be some civics course that politicians must take, as well as taking a constitutional law class, because idiots like this is literally running our country into the ground. And yes, I'm being very straightforward. AOC is an idiot. She's a former bartender. She has an arts degree. I don't know why we allow people that has arts degree within our government. They're not contributing nothing. First of all, Charlie never said that the entirety of the Civil Rights Act was wrong. I have several videos I'm going to show you. And as I said, I'm not going to play this. I'm going to play the entirety of this. Then we're going to go look at what Charlie truly said and give you my take. But who's hurting from Charlie's words? He literally called out segregation is wrong. He's called out racism. He's condemned racism. He spoke truth about the black community on issues in the black community. I personally think Charlie cared more about the black community than most of the Congress that represents him. So this is the rhetoric that is getting people shot at. You know, we have a video, I don't have it within this podcast, but we'll find it, of Chuck Schumer literally calling for political violence against, our Supreme Court justices. We have video evidence of Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, literally spewing rhetoric, violence against the right. I told you guys, I'm not on either side of the aisle. I'm not even registered Republican. I was registered Democrat. I left the Democratic Party after years of research and understanding what type of party this is. I hate racism. I hated slavery. And to know that the party I aligned with from my earlier years was pretty much the reason why all of that existed made me throw up. But this is the problem. You're not seeing people on the right calling for political violence. When Melissa Horton was killed by somebody she personally knew, it was a personal murder. I don't think it was even political. The entire right side of the aisle is like, yeah, this cannot be happening. And they condemned it. Everyone voted. We have 96 members of Congress either stayed or voted no. I believe it was like 50 something that voted no. And she's one of them. This is where you, the American people, need to stand up and say, you got to go. You got to go. Stop voting idiots into Congress, into bodies of government, just because their talking points sound good. Do you know who else had really good talking points? The Mustache Man. I'm not comparing AOC or anybody on the far left to that man. I'm just saying in reality, regardless if they're on the right, if they're on the left, don't vote somebody in office because of their good talking points. Because anybody can talk the talk, myself included. But can somebody really walk the walk? Think about it though. Can somebody really walk the walk? Now we could talk about Trump just real quick. He has talked the talk and he's been walking the walk. Charlie Kirk, he's done a lot of talking, but he's done a lot of walking. He lived by his principles. Can we say with a lot of Congress members, are you walking by your principles? Are you walking of what you're talking? I don't know, guys. Let's let her continue.
After the violent attack on Paul Pelosi claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant, and accused Jews of controlling, quote, not just the colleges, it's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it, unquote. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution. It is equally important that Congress does unite to reject the government's attempt to weaponize this moment into an all-out assault on free speech across the country, all in the name of Charlie Kirk, President.
I know I'm stopping it here and there, and it's because I have to call out the bullshit where's bullshit. Mrs. AOC, you're probably never going to see this, and I'm hoping one day you do. You are the dumbest woman I've ever heard speak. And I've listened to Hillary Clinton talk. So that takes a prize. I know words hurt your feelings. I know words are violence according to your side of the aisle. Everything you spewed out of your mouth, and anybody that listened within Congress got a lot dumber just listening to you. Nothing you said was of truth. Nothing that you said had 1 ounce of integrity within it. I want you to understand that a lot of the political violence, right? You're talking about, war on free speech, right? Jimmy Kimmel got fired because he literally tried to lie to the American people. He didn't get fired because he made some insensitive comments. He wasn't happy about the death of Charlie Kirk. A lot of us aren't. But when you sit there and tell everybody a lie that individual is a right-wing lunatic, when in reality the evidence is pointing towards the truth, that he was radicalized. Yes, he was born and raised in a Mormon household. Yes, he was born and raised with Christian values. Yes, he was raised by a Trump family. But the evidence has shown he was radicalized over the past few years. Now, we'll eventually get to the point where he was radicalized. All that truth will come to the light. But Jimmy got himself fired for that, okay? Let's put that on the table. This is not a war on free speech. See, you have free speech to say whatever shit you want to say, but you don't have the freedom of consequences. Like holy shit. That's like me. Excuse me. That's like, see, her bullshit is that I'm allergic to her bullshit. Holy crap. That's like me going into a store, right? And stealing a candy bar. And the second I get arrested, I start screaming that I'm the victim. And there are consequences to your actions. So if your words are spewing hate, spewing violence, and you are inciting violence on somebody, which is a crime, by the way. If you incite murder, incite violence, it is a felony. So you're well aware. Then there's consequences. AOC, I understand you spent the majority of your adult years within the bar, allowing people to drink up and hook up and all that. And you went and got an arts degree. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. But that doesn't give you the right to be within Congress. I think people need to vote her out. Vote her out of office. Kick her out of Congress. She's not educated enough to really learn how to speak properly. That your words matter. Jesus has told us that our words are more dangerous than any weapon formed against us. And she's bearing false witness. I don't know her religious beliefs because I don't know her that well. But if she's a Christian, you're lukewarm, sweetheart. You're very, very lukewarm. Because when you bear false witness against somebody's character, you are committing murder against that character. Spiritual murder. But we'll let her continue her rhetoric.
Trump and the FCC are now cynically threatening to shut down ABC and any outlets who give airtime to the administration's political critics. This is a disgusting attack on the American people and the very First Amendment rights that define us as a country. It is also
I'm gonna let her finish.
The ABC Corporation's responsibility to refuse to embolden and participate in this corruption and escalation of censorship. We continue to pray for Mr. Kirk's family and loved ones in the wake of this terrible act. I am thinking especially of his children and his wife, whose grief cannot be measured. And with that, I yield back to the gentleman.
I yield back the votes for you, sweetheart. I honestly do. I don't understand how the hell you got elected, but then I do understand that New York City, the Bronx, is pretty much majority liberal. Maybe not no more, because a lot of centrists and moderates are leaving. I mean, you're going to get the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s voting for you. That's about it. You're going to get the loonies voting for you. That's about it. Maybe some illegals, if we don't get voter IDs in place. She spewed lies. lie after lie. See, this is what grinds me and gets me so like flustered. So you're trying to tell me and every American that it's okay to lie to people, that it's okay to mislead the American people. See, this is why when I go into the Smith-Mundy Act and what Barack Obama did in 2012, when I go into that podcast, I'm going nuclear. Because Barack Obama has led to the destruction of this country. These are true facts. Because I witnessed since 2012 the amount of lying bullshit from both sides of the aisle. Okay, majority one-sided, but you know the right has had their moments where they've been caught with their pants down per se. Okay, but the left has continuously found with their pants down. It's like Bill Clinton, literally. It's like Bill Clinton in the Oval Office with Monica Lewinsky, constantly with their pants down, lying and lying and lying and lying. Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know why you even brought Jimmy into the Charlie Kirk situation. I see so many vile, disgusting people standing in unison for Jimmy Kimmel. Because him getting fired is an attack on free speech. No, he lied to the American people. He spread misinformation. That's propaganda, ladies and gentlemen. The Koreans do that. Russia does that. Communism does that. Dictators do that. So here you are claiming that Mr. Trump, our wonderful president of the United States of America, is a dictator. But yet all he wants is truth and transparency. But here you are, lying to the American people, spewing lies, misleading the American people. That's propaganda. That's what a dictator does. You got to understand, yes, you have the freedom of speech. You can say whatever your heart desires, but that doesn't give you the freedom from the consequences of that. So if you're going to lie to the American people, right, and you're going to mislead the American people to divide the American people, you need to be fired. You need to be removed. Yes, I think, once again, I talked about this in the last podcast, I think when it comes to broadcasting licenses, they should be revoked. If you are going to continuously lie to the American people and not fix that mistake, and own up to that mistake, you need to be taken off the air. I don't care if it's Fox News, CNN. I don't care if it's NBC. I do not care if it's your grandmother in her basement spreading misinformation. Take them off the air. Because truth matters. Whether we like it or not, okay? If it came out that Donald Trump was on the Epstein list, yes, I'm not going to like it. It's going to make me upset because the guy lied to me. But I'd rather know and be told the truth than to have news agencies and the government constantly lying to me and misguided me, you know. But as I said, we are going to dive even further into the Charlie Kirk thing. We have this guy here. He voted against the resolution. While I condemned his violent murder, this resolution sought to elevate Charlie Kirk as a role model. He is a role model. I cannot support in good conscience, read my statement below. I condemn unequivocally in the strongest terms that the violence of Charlie. This is just talking points. I'm praying. You can't pray for somebody's family when you are literally going to spew lies. But let's just digress. I'm praying for his family and for our nation as we navigate the aftermath of the last week's horrific shooting. See, there's that key line, right? Shooting. No, he was freaking assassinated, okay? So I'm gonna be your editor, okay? After last week's horrific assassination, no one should be killed for what they say or what they believe, or any claim to the contrary betrays the values upon this nation as was founded. But my deep regret that Mr. Kirk was killed, and my respect for his First Amendment right to express himself freely, does not make him someone that should be elevated as a role model for the American public. This resolution before us today would just do that. The fact that Charlie Kirk rhetoric was divisive, dispassionate, and too often rooted in grievance. See, this is the problem when you call out liars. This is their favorite thing. grievance. You're hurting my feelings, sir. Don't tell me I'm a liar. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me the truth. I don't get it. The beliefs the immense enormous and fridge views on race, sex, and immigration. Unfortunately, his rhetoric runs on the dangers produced in the dark past. Okay, I'm not going to read no more of that because I'm going to throw up. But this is the problem. Charlie was all about men getting married, having children, and being a man of God, having a God-centered marriage. How dare he have that, right? How dare Charlie want men to have babies? Once again, I learned how men have babies through my sex ed class. I don't think this guy ever had sex ed class because last time I checked, it's only a man and a woman can have a baby. By, not playing sword fight. More like the sausage than the taco. I'm not eating for 2 days, so food's on my mind, so do forgive me. But this is what I'm talking about. It's like a lot of the rhetoric, okay? Charlie loved the black people. He loved the black community. He just spoke truth. That the Civil Rights Act is being abused by the far left. Okay? When it comes to what immigrants is he hating against? Illegal immigrants? Illegal? Listen, does that make me a hateful person because I'm against illegal immigration? You come into this country legally. And you blend into our society and you contribute to our civil society. I really do not fully come to understand these people's rhetorics, but we're going to go to Charlie Kirk himself. We're going to watch a 4-minute video. If I have to interrupt, I definitely will. But Charlie usually speaks truth, so I might not have to stop just to vent my grievance. Or I might. We'll see.
Previous assertion that race means nothing. Critical race theory is not being taught in schools. It is a academic theory that's pretty much delegated only to higher academia. They are not teaching it in schools. Your explanation of it was an oversimplification. You address the real history behind it, unlike most people. And why, if race means nothing, does it affect our history? Say 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Why is there such evil history with something that supposedly means nothing?
Okay, so first of all, you're wrong. It is being taught in elementary schools. I'll give you an example. Not only is it being taught, it's being enforced. So in Denver, there is a playground where they say white families not allowed. Would you support that?
That seems like a ridiculous edge case.
So I'll give you another example. Actually, in the National Education Association's training manual, which is the largest teacher union in the country, they had a seminar on how to teach critical race theory to kids. That sounds like it's in our schools, doesn't it?
What that is it's literally just common sense. It's saying that this is real history. This is what has happened in the past.
Right. So
that matters.
Okay, got it. So, for example, would you say that black-only dormitories is wrong?
It certainly creates a sense of community. I don't see any problem with that. We have sororities. We have male-only dorms.
Racial differences are irrelevant and immaterial. Chromosomal differences actually do matter. But let me ask you a question. Are there differences between races?
No, not biologically.
Then why would we have different dormitories for races?
Culture.
Segregation is what you're arguing for, my friend.
No, sir. No, sir.
How is it not segregation to have blacks in their own dorm?
You've just pigeonholed me, essentially. You've essentially just you've distracted from my original argument.
No. You did that to yourself. Let's reemphasize. So Ibram X. Kendi argues, who is one of the leading thinkers of critical theory, race theory, discrimination today to atone for discrimination of yesterday. We have black-only graduation ceremonies at Columbia University, black-only dormitories across the country, for example, at Western Washington University. Can you join me today in saying black-only dormitories are evil, wrong, and it's segregation?
You still haven't answered my question about why does this history simultaneously mean nothing?
Well, I'm happy to answer that, but the fact you're dodging segregation in America, why is that?
I'm arguing against segregation.
So you're against black-only dormitories?
Yes.
Well, you said it was a force of community, and then not for critical race theory.
That's an option. We have choice.
Oh, so you could choose to segregate.
That's a pigeonhole.
What do you think of white-only dormitories?
What?
Would you support white-only dormitories?
Everybody has a choice.
So I think white-only and black-only anything is evil and wrong. That's why I hate critical theory and critical race theory, because when it's put in practice, you start to discriminate people based on race. So we're now south of the Mason-Dixon line in North Carolina. We did a lot of work to get rid of segregation in this country. Why are you trying to bring it back?
What work?
The Civil Rights Act of 1964.
In this state?
Yeah, actually in this state. Are there black-only bathrooms out there I'm unaware of, or white-only bathrooms?
Nah.
Right. A lot of work was done in this state.
Fuck you, your face is small.
Well, thanks for being here. They always go to insults when they lose the argument. God bless you, my friend.
To address your previous...
That's crazy. So, Charlie Kirk, right? But yeah, right there, he just showed he's against the Civil Rights Act. No, there are certain portions of the Civil Rights Act that is being used today to push an evil agenda upon the American people. I don't believe men should be in women's sports. I don't believe biological men should be in women's bathrooms. We have women's separate areas, women's separate only sports. Not only sports, we have their own bathrooms because we respect women. They deserve their own space. Why is the far left trying to go backwards? Charlie hit that note right in the head. When you really look at what's been happening over the past 13 years, 16 years, we have watched society get worse. You're trying to take away women's rights, the leftists, okay? You're trying to eradicate any ideology of what a woman is. Last time I checked was XX chromosomes. They got boobs. They got a certain body part that we don't have that we could... I won't go into any more details. You understand why a man and a woman was made, to make babies. That's God's ultimate goal for us to reproduce the earth. Obviously, marriage first. And that's what Charlie advocated for. But he spoke truth. I think that scared a lot of people. They misunderstood what he was hitting at. That certain laws from like 20, 30 years ago were good back then, but is now being misrepresented and abused to hurt the American people. But let's continue with some more dialogue. This is once again from Charlie Kirk.
Do you support the Civil Rights Act?
In spirit, but not how it's written.
Why?
It's too broad and paved its way for the persecution. For example, they're using the Civil Rights Act to put men in locker rooms like Riley was in.
How? Which article?
Article 4 or 5, I think. I actually don't know specifically, but the Civil Rights Act is being used for by the trans movement right now because they say that they are women, therefore they demand an accommodation of women's rights. Riley can riff on this. They're using the Civil Rights Act literally to have access into female locker rooms.
So what would you change about the Civil Rights Act?
I wouldn't make it as broad. I would make it much more crisp and concrete, and I wouldn't have it necessarily. I would also get rid of the disparate impact component of the Civil Rights Act. So the biggest problem with the Civil Rights Act, there's 4 components of the beast of anti-racism. There's affirmative action, DEI, disparate impact, and then, of course, there's a 4th that I'll remember in a second, which is basically disparate impact is that it must be racism if 2 different groups have different outcomes, which, of course, is outrageous. Disparate impact is the legal theory that undergirds most of the enforcement of the Civil Rights Act.
Do you support this?
All right, let's see what else. Let's go to a little bit bigger of a screen for you.
So Merrick Garland recently, the Attorney General of the United States, recently said that North Carolina and Georgia cannot have voter ID laws. So asking somebody to provide identification when they vote, because it's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. Because they say that it disproportionately impacts Black Americans. So the issue with the Civil Rights Act is not just the not just the action of being of racially segregating or of being racially insensitive or to somebody. It is the impact. So if it impacts a certain group, therefore it's also then called illegal under the Civil Rights Act. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it most certainly wasn't a mistake, though.
Well, of course it was a mistake. The way it was written, the intent was not, though.
Yeah, okay, but at the time, of course, it was not a mistake.
Yes, it was. The way that it was written.
What people have used it for now, maybe yes, but back then it wasn't a mistake, though. Because
but you have to judge the law as it is now, right? So it's like saying, well, the law might have been good 20 years ago.
Okay, but so you did say, oh, I'm against discrimination, but I don't think the Civil Rights Bill should be signed.
So one provision I think should have been passed. Okay. So one provision was good.
You're saying it should have been more
minor. Should have been whittled down, and it should have been this massive, overreaching monstrosity.
Okay.
What if?
Okay. Let's do one more.
You said the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so the parts of the Civil Rights Act were great, but the way it's now being implemented to force men in female bathrooms to push forward of the trans agenda, the intent of the Civil Rights Act is way beyond what it was originally authored for.
But the intent specifically originally was to...
Well, that's interesting. So the intent and the law are two different things. So the intent was noble, which was to say that no American can be not allowed into a place of business based on the color of their skin or their ethnic heritage. Totally agreement with that. That's not what the law only did. It created a massive anti-racist DEI army that then gave us affirmative action. For example, recently Merrick Garland sued using the Civil Rights Act, saying that we cannot have voter ID in certain states because it's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So basically what the Civil Rights Act did is that it went beyond disparate impact and then went to disparate effect. In the sense where if black Americans are not doing as well as white Americans in a certain category, you can now use the Civil Rights Act and say that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act, even though there might be other contributing factors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's too broad, too wide, and it's now doing a lot of damage to the country. It's being used well beyond its original intent.
I will be a holy shit. I think this is what has to happen. Whenever somebody spews lies, we have to play the evidence to them, like I just did here. So you heard what AOC said, right? You heard what a lot of people have been saying on both sides of the aisle. One side is speaking truth. They want to honor that truth. You have the other side of the aisle that just don't want the truth to be revealed. Charlie said it himself, that he loves the Civil Rights Act. He believes that it was a very noble intent. He supports those provisions. But he was being very clear that it's being used today by the trans movement to put men, biological men, into women's bathrooms, into women's sports. That in itself, doing just that act alone, violates women's rights. People don't want to hear the truth. I think that's the biggest issue, because I think the truth hurts them. I think the truth bothers them. I think it agitates them. But as I said, this was a very longer podcast than my normals. But I really wanted to hit it home to you guys, that the lies that they're spewing, we have to keep showing the truth. Spread the truth. Go to Charlie's page and remix as much as possible. Put his word out there. Put everything he's ever said out there for people can hear the truth. Is it wrong for a man to say that a man and woman should get married and have children and be God-centered? I don't think so. Obviously, evil people are going to say, no, because their God is not my God. They worship the God of Hades. They worship a God that hates, that wants destruction, that truly don't love them. But you heard from his own mouth, and yeah, Garland wanted to use this to say we shouldn't have voter IDs. I think we do. And it really wasn't towards blacks, because we could give voter IDs for free of charge to every American, natural born American in this country. Every American shall have a voter ID by the time they're 18 years of age. Regardless the color of your skin, you should get it. Then we could start implementing the truth. You know what I'm saying? I know why Garland voted against it, because they were trying to steal the election again. Now, do I know if 2020 was stolen or not? I really don't. I'm not going to sit here and make a statement like I know, because at the end of the day, if I don't know the truth, I'm not going to speak of it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not what this podcast is about. But obviously, something was off. We could say that. Something didn't seem right. And you look at this current election, and it's like, something just don't add up. Right? Something just don't add up. But at the end of the day, the truth will eventually reveal itself. And we've already seen a lot of cases of the voter fraud and all that. But yes, our voting system is being abused. There are a lot of illegal aliens in this country who are here. These immigrants are here illegally. And I could promise you, it would not surprise me. I'll put it as this. I can't make a promise I can't fulfill. It would not surprise me if any of those voted within the last election, not 2024 or 2020, the prior election to this recent one. It would not surprise me if they voted in quite a few elections. And when you go and you start putting the truth in their face, there has to be a sense of a morality there. You know what I'm saying? You have to have some kind of moral value within your consciousness. There's no way you could sit here and openly lie about somebody and not have it like affect you. That in itself, if it doesn't affect you, there's something evil within your heart. There's something evil within your mind. But I put the truth out there. I gave her the floor. I gave Charlie the floor. And we compared them to one another. Who do you think spoke the truth? Let me know in the comments down below. Was Charlie really a racist? Was Charlie really anti-women? Was Charlie this bigot? No. From what I've taken from watching the evidence, not from my own personal opinion, from the evidence is where I'm going to rule from. No. He spoke truth. He wanted to have an open conversation, hard conversations, right? On the issues our society's facing today. And not a lot of people like that. I don't care how you want to live your life, right? You know, part of me does, because I want everybody to go to heaven. I want everybody to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. I want everybody to have the same feeling that I get every time I speak about Jesus and how Jesus saved me and how Jesus renewed me. I want people to have that feeling, but a lot of people won't accept it. They won't accept the truth of who Jesus is. They won't accept the truth in general, wherever it's coming from. And because, for example, if you want to be trans, right? Be trans. Is it wrong? Is it against God's rule of law? Yes. Am I going to hate you for that? No. If you want to live a certain lifestyle and be with a certain person that goes against God's law and order, I'm not going to hate you for that. I will tell you that it is sinful. It is wrong. It is going to condemn you to hell. That's not me hating you or spewing hate. That's me speaking truth and facts and speaking love. We got to stop affirming mental illness as well, guys. But with that being said, you have free will to choose how you want to live your life. But I also have the obligation, not a free will, but an obligation to share the good news of Jesus Christ, to share the good news, share the truth, bring in truth and facts to the table, shining that light upon the darkest points of our society. Regardless of what it costs me, I will do so. Because Charlie done it the best. There will never be another Charlie out there. There will never be another person like him, because he done it so well. He is one of these generational talents that was taken too early. You guys got to start paying attention to your politicians. Stop electing people based upon good words and good feelings. Look at their actions. Look at how they talk and how they walk. Because if they're doing a lot of good talking, but they're not doing a lot of good walking, and they're not standing by their own principles, we have a problem. Charlie, we're all going to miss you, brother. But you fought the good fight. It is our turn to carry that cross. God bless you, brother. We all love you so much. God bless the United States. Until the next one, have a good one, y'all.